Do you know that what we were so scared of is finally happening? When Captain Ibrahim Traore assumed office, what we were all scared of was our very own people giving him out. It will surprise you to know that some senators in Africa, some of the African leaders are selling him off. And some of our youths are also in there. Some of them have taken money. And what will even shock you is a minister in parliament talking ill of Ibrahim Traore. I'll give you the whole details to the story. This is What's Up Today. Here is Dynamic TV Plus. My name is Nada Dynamic. Please do well to subscribe to the channel for us and also like the video, as it will go a long way to help us to, get the zeal to give you the updates, back-to-back updates as and when necessary.
He's about to go now.
The story of African leaders has always been the same. But the problem is this. It has always been ourselves that always gives our leaders out. What baffles my mind is when the leader is not doing anything. In any case, when the leader is not being good to his people or to his subjects, these people sees nothing wrong with that leader. But anytime you see a positivity in the daily affairs or the day-to-day business of that leader, in a way that is going to affect the economy of his country positively, these Americans will find ways, one or two, to just take down that leader. It will seem to you that it is very far, but look, it is very closer than you can even imagine. We know what has happened to some of our very great leaders on the continent of Africa. In 1958, we know what happened to Ame Sekou Toure of Guinea. And Patrice Lumumba of Congo was also, taken off the whole equation by the power of the CIA. In 1980, Hissène Habré was also taken down from Chad. He was as well a great leader. In 1966, Kwame Nkrumah was also taken down in Ghana. All these people are great leaders. Now, when Muammar al-Gaddafi overthrew King Idris I in 1969, he assumed office, ruled Libya for Libya to be one of the best. In fact, Libya was a dreamland for most of our Muslim brothers. Look, regardless of the hassles and the tussles that were involved in, traveling or walking, or some people even taking car through the deserts, it wasn't an easy journey. If you know anybody who made it through the desert to Libya, you ask them of what the whole, how the journey was. Some people could not even make it to Libya. Some people were not able to make it. Some people died along the road. But look, it was a risk worth trying, because they knew that once you get to Libya under the leadership of Gaddafi, everything was good. Though Gaddafi was not a saint, but he was okay for the people of Libya. Until 2011, when the Americans promised the Libyans that they were going to give them democracy. And that has always been the evil weapon fashioning against Africa. The entire continent is going through an endless cycle, an endless loop of poverty, just because of that word, democracy. When the Americans promised Libya that they were going to give them democracy, they thought, look, it is everything that they want. Because look, the freedom to express yourself, the freedom to elect your own leader, that is going to be the way forward. But look, that wasn't the case. Funny enough, now, if you should put Libya before Gaddafi and Libya after Gaddafi, you realize that democracy is never an option in Africa. You realize that Africa as a continent Look, we are not wired to develop under that circumstance or under democracy. We are not saying democracy is a bad thing, and we are not talking down on democracy, no. But we are saying that democracy is not what is needed in Africa. All that we need is to understand each other and have one leader who has that goal, who has that influence, that leader who can just thrive and fight for our common goal. Why am I saying all this? I am saying all this for you to know that we have had good leaders who would have made a certain impact on the African continent and who would have made some conscious effort to change the narrative when it comes to Africa. But these people, these same Western people, through their CIA, made sure that none of those leaders were able to succeed. But do you know why I don't blame the CIAs? I don't blame the Americans. No. Neither do I blame the CIAs or all the agencies that are involved in those things. I don't blame them. Do you know why? Because the CIAs and the Americans, no matter the weapons, no matter the ammunition, no matter the influence that they have on the African continent, there was no way they were going to succeed without turning our very own people against ourselves. So tell me a great African leader, and I will tell you how they were able to make that African leader unpopular. For the CIA to get the necessary, rights and privilege to take that leader off. They can never take your leader off without your permission. And so give me an African leader, and I will tell you an African leader who is trying to make it, who is trying to put Africa on the map. And I'll tell you how he ended up, leaving power. And some of them, how they even ended up, being eliminated. And I see the same strategy. I see the same device. I see the same mappings when it comes to Captain Ibrahim Traore. Look, not long ago, we saw some youths, some Burkinabe youths, making a demonstration in France.
Voilà la vérité. C'est que nous disons. Juste, nous voulons que M. Ibrahim Traore arrête de faire des exactions contre les populations civiles qui n'ont rien demandé, qui ne savent même pas où se trouve la capitale du Burkina Faso, à savoir Ouagadougou. Donc c'est des gens qui vivent dans des villages, qui ne connaissent rien de la vie politique. Les djihadistes viennent, ils occupent des villages, ils les obligent à s'habiller en burqa. On vous dit, vous vous habillez en pourquoi, sinon je reviens dans une semaine, je vous abattue tous. Les gens, ils s'habillent en pourquoi, ils n'ont pas envie de mourir, on les oblige à le faire.
Ebi my Jimmy too much. No, sometimes ebi we just need to tell them say omoye mpase afo, because it doesn't make sense. How much were you paid? No, and in any case, if you think your country is good, if you think Burkina Faso is very good, that it is Ibrahim Traore that is making it so ungovernable, that is making it very bad, that is making people to just get into your territories, that is making it so, good for, terrorism. Then let's ask ourselves, why aren't you living there? Were you there before Ibrahim Traore assumed office? No, you have been living in France. So why don't you come down to Burkina Faso, gather few youths, and then hit the streets in Burkina Faso? Then we get to know, you know what you are doing. So I am very happy when I saw, some of the Burkinabes, the people who are living in Burkina Faso, they also took to the streets. And they also made it known that, look, they love their leader. And they will always stand by Captain Ibrahim Traore. You can see the children. You can see women. You can see youths. they are all on the streets telling the people that, look, the Western feels like we are being suffocated. The Western feels like Captain Traore is not treating us right. But look, we are the people living in our country and we like him. Regardless of how he's governing us, regardless of how whatever is going on, we like him. And we want it to stay like this. And so if they want it to stay like this, who are you to change the whole narrative? Who are you to just get in to say that, look, though the people love it, but we don't like it, so we are just going to do our thing? And what got me so upset was the fact that some of the African leaders who are supposed to be each other's keeper, who are supposed to stand in, who are supposed to even get closer to Ibrahim Traore to make sure that whatever good thing that he's doing for the people, for the continent, and also even for the Burkinabe citizens, some of these people are turning against him. But let's listen to what this Kenyan senator said on the floor of parliament against Captain Ibrahim Traore.
On a more serious note, there is something else, Senator Ledama, you need to check. You know, I followed, you said something that got my attention about Captain Ibrahim Traore. I used to also fall for his hype, like many people fall on TikTok. I saw another journalist another time saying, oh, did you see the way he was cheered when he arrived for the inauguration of the Ghanaian new president? Mr. Speaker, and I was excited like most people, until I did some further research about what is exactly going on in Burkina Faso. And I want to challenge Senator Ledama to do the same, perhaps counter-check Senator Ledama, the things that you read online and the reality on ground, as Kenyans say. And I was shocked actually to learn that despite all this hype and the things that we read about, the things that they are doing, you know, first of all, I am not a fan of coups. I am a firm believer in democracy. I strongly believe that if there were lesser coups in Africa and more transitions by the ballot, Africa will advance better than it is doing through coups and by the power of the bullet. For that reason, I am not a big fan of that particular gentleman. But more importantly, the reason why the military, led by him, took over Burkina Faso is that they insisted that there were challenges with security in their country. And there were terrorists ravaging around, killing people, and all these kind of challenges. You need to check Senator Ledama, because from the research that I did, is that actually since they took over power, and you know wars are very costly. You can see what is happening to the gentleman in Ukraine. See how he's being embarrassed and the things that he's being taught. Because wars are extremely expensive. If you don't have a way through which you will fund your war, then you better not start it. So the unfortunate situation in that country, and we need to check, unfortunately they are not part of the Great Lakes, but this is just to make the point that we need to understand our continent better, is that since coming into power by the bullet of Captain Ibrahim Traore, they have lost 40% more territory to the terrorists that were ravaging people. So it's easy to read all these things online, TikTok, and people say, oh, certain things are happening. But do your research further. And that's the tragedy with Africa. That is part of what this report is telling us, that as parliamentarians, Mr. Speaker, in African nations, we know very little about our continent.
Is it not shameful for an African leader to say this on the floor of parliament? In any case, you are in Kenya. Look, you are facing your own problems. Fight it. You have your own matter to potchum. Deal with it. You have your own issues. It's not as if, Kenyan is good. It's not as if Kenya, you have no problems. You are not done solving your own problems. Why do you have to turn the whole, telescope to Ibrahim Traore's affairs? For you to even say that you were all parts or you even fell for his hype, why do you have to use the word hype? Do you think he's getting an attention which he's not deserving of? Do you think people are praising him for doing nothing? Is that what you think? for you to say that those are gimmicks, and when you go down to Burkina Faso and Kasana, what is there, no, it's not matching up to the noise that are out there. The moment you say this, it looks like it is coming from a place of hate. It looks like it is coming from a place where you feel like when he came to Ghana, the whole vibe that he got, the attention, the applause that he got, you know, it is all for the hype and all those things. Now, look, so you are not a fan of democracy, and so you can never be a fan of that gentleman. Look, you can disregard everything, but let's ask ourselves, if the Kenyan people feel like they are practicing pure democracy, ask yourself, how good is the Kenyan economy, and how good, or the average Kenyan citizen, how is the person's condition? If you can give me one country, one African country that is thriving very well in democracy in the last 50 years, one African country that is thriving in democracy. But I can give you one country, one African country that was doing so very well without democracy. I can give you Libya. Libya was doing very well without democracy. And when Libya finally got democracy, look at what is happening. Now I tell you, many people in Libya would have preferred that Gaddafi was still governing them. They would have preferred that Gaddafi was still their head of state. But what is it? It is over. It is over. Because the moment your leader accepts that the Western can exploit their land, they can use their land as you know, as a laboratory. They can use the people and everybody in it without any question. Then you happen to be a good leader in the eyes of the Western world. Look, these tactics, we have seen it before. In fact, we saw it under Nkrumah. When the CIA made Nkrumah very, very much unpopular in Ghana. So it is very sad when you see an African leader taken to a podium to speak ill of a fellow African leader like this, just because he feels like he wasn't elected into power. And so, by way of election, no, that is the only way. And look, before I end, no, some people cite Rwanda as a developing, in fact, as a fast developing country in Africa. I agree. Rwanda is developing very rapidly. And you see, the pace with which Rwanda is developing, no, it is so marvelous. It is beautiful. But ask yourself, is Rwanda a fully democratic country? The answer will be no. Because anytime Rwanda is having an election, it's either it will be rigged, it's either the will of the presidents will be imposed. And that is not a firmly 100% democratic country. They open the door for election, yes. Everybody knows that. But the electoral process, how does it go? And that is a problem. Democracy is not democracy. When the will of the people, when the people who will queue to vote, at the end of the day, their votes and their views will not be respected fully. That is not a fully democratic country. And that is the more reason why when the president speaks, when Paul Kagame speaks in Rwanda, it's, in a way, it is final. It's not like, you know, Ghana, it's not like other African countries where our democracy is so dipped in with foreign influence in a way that even to make one policy, it will take decades. Sometimes one policy can take about 10 years, sometimes 5 years for the policy to be launched. Because the minority will say this, majority will say this, the ordinary people will say this before they just decipher, before, you see, the way the political gimmicks around the whole thing now will take ages before a rule or before an act will be passed or a bill will be passed. And so for a country to develop rapidly in Africa, total democracy can never do that. Now, what I want to tell you is this. No African country can compete with the Westerners no matter what kind of leader they have, if they thrive or if they make up their mind to use or to go by the democracy, whether it's being anchored by the Western influence, because it is the Westerners that are controlling the narrative anytime you try or you decide to practice a total democratic system. Just take all the things that I've stated into consideration. Use Libya as a case study. This is Dynamic TV Plus, and this is What's Up Today. Please make sure to subscribe to the channel for us and also like the video as well. My name still remains Nanel Dynamic. See you in the next one. I'm out.
Family 3940. Guess what? You are watching Dynamic TV Plus. Keep on watching, subscribe, share, then leave your comments. One time, big love.